Hey folks, welcome back to this week's special quarantine edition of The Rec Room. My name is Ethan, but I go by Ochrence online sometimes. If I'd just woken up from a coma right now, I'd probably take a second to catch my breath and then tell them to put me back under for another few months. Look, I'm gonna be real. I'm having a tough time right now, and I don't think I'm the only one. Already, most people around the world have been profoundly affected by the current pandemic. So before I continue, I want to underscore that we owe it to ourselves and to our loved ones to stay home whenever we can right now, even if we're not sick or don't think we are. Whether you're older or younger, whether you have an underlying health condition or not, stay home when you can. You don't exactly need to be a rocket surgeon to see that there's been quite a bit of bad news making the rounds recently. And just speaking for myself, it's been hard to stay updated with important information without getting sucked into despair or anxiety. One of the only things that's been keeping me sane in the present moment, though I was never too high on sanity in the first place, is experiencing all of the wonderful art that's still being created right now. I know that I never feel quite as alone with some music on. With many musicians cooped up in their houses and unable to gig right now, you can bet there's going to be a lot of new music coming out very soon, which we should all do our best to support. Our usual lifestyles may be on hold right now, but our senses of fulfillment don't have to be. With all that being said, here are 5 songs that helped me take a little bit of a break from reality over this past week. I hope you enjoy them as much as I have. Today's first pick is a tune called GP by R&B singer-songwriter Tiambe Lockhart, who spent part of her life right here in Los Angeles. It features prodigiously talented pianist Robert Glasper, who you should really check out if you haven't heard of before, and was included in a retrospective release from Ms. Lockhart entitled The Aquarius Years, which just came out the other week. This is a hazy, dreamy slow jam with a constant hi-hat groove, featuring beautiful vocal harmonies from Tiambe and nice chords from Glasper. Tiambe's vocal tone is soothing, and the ornaments she employs here are all quite tasteful. The lyrics are wistful and a little gloomy, lamenting the end of a long-term relationship. As I watch the rain through my window over there, sometimes I want to listen to something that feels a little bit like I do, and this is just the ticket. The next song I've chosen for you today is probably the most polarizing piece of music I've ever featured on this show. Some background for you. Once upon a time, there was a sullen and strange composer named Bob Gratinger. By all accounts, Bob was not the best conversationalist or the easiest person to get along with, but for those who took the time to understand his work, he was a brilliant source of inspiration. He died of lung cancer at only 33, probably partly due to his punishing workaholism, but he left behind an experimental body of work still gaining new appreciation each and every day. Bob liked to write for big band and ran in a circle of boundary-pushing jazz maestros in his day that included Stan Kenton. Stan was clearly taken with Bob's work from first sight, and eventually ended up recording an entire album of his pieces that he put out in 1951 entitled City of Glass. A more dissonant record by a more famous jazz orchestra has probably never been put out. Bob loved ugly, deranged harmonies and threw them all over the place here. The critics loved it, but it seemed that more people absolutely hated what they were hearing. To this day, many Kenton aficionados will say that they'll happily listen to anything he recorded unless it was with Bob. Even Kenton himself later remarked, and this is verbatim, "It was either the greatest music the band ever presented, or the biggest pile of crap we ever played, and I still do not know which." Back to the present. This record was shown to me recently by my friend Jake Tilton, who is a great musician in his own right, and I didn't know what to make of it other than that I loved it. It was enormously daring music, constantly off the rails, yet still tinged with a folksy big band spirit that occasionally veered unaccessible. If you're into really weird music, do yourself a favor and check this out right now. I'll throw the link in the description. The song I'm showcasing from this album today is ultimately its most accessible cut, though you wouldn't know that from the first 10 seconds. It's an arrangement that Bob Gratinger made of the popular jazz standard Everything Happens to Me, featuring June Christy on vocals. I love this song precisely because it makes no attempt to play nice with the listener from the very beginning. The introduction is absolutely hideous in a beautiful way, with a lead trumpet noodling around on seemingly random notes while the other instruments produce a cacophony in the background. Then all of a sudden, all the dissonance dissolves like it was never there, and June Christy's welcoming voice leads us into a surprisingly consonant rendition of the standard by a smaller combo within the orchestra. Throughout the piece, Gratinger skillfully plays up the opposition between the sweet, pleasant jazz standard he is arranging and the sour, detuned motifs and background parts he sprinkles in along the way. I don't want to spoil everything, but there's enough strange resolutions and weird melodies here to interest anyone who likes music off the beaten path. I don't often hear music that makes me laugh and think at the same time, but this will probably make you do just that. I have got to stop writing so much. Okay, moving on. Today's third song is called Chase the New Morning by Norway's very own Stian Westerhus, off of his latest album Redundance, out just the other week. I listened to this whole thing last Sunday and it just blew my mind. Stian's background is in jazz guitar, but he's also skilled as a producer, singer, and composer of electroacoustic music. This particular track is the first cut off of the album and sets the tone for the whole thing. Sparse, at equal turns lush and terrifying, with complex song structures. It's been remarked before, and I absolutely agree, that Stian's music sounds like a fusion between maybe James Blake and Scott Walker. His voice sounds like both artists, and he combines shades of the pop sensibility and soul of the former with the emotional depth and intricacy of the latter. Stian has remarked in interviews that this song is a reaction to the Hong Kong protests of 2019. It features anti-authoritarian lyrics, industrial beats, walls of noise, falsetto choruses featuring extended instrumental techniques, and one chaotic guitar solo. If you like any of those things, give this one a listen. The fourth song on my list came to me as a Spotify recommendation and is probably the best known song for today. This is Terror Bird by Bent Knee, the opening track off of the 2017 album Land Animal. Bent Knee formed in Boston in 2009 and have been playing their distinct flavor of progressive art rock ever since, featuring complex and tight instrumental arrangements with lots of abrupt changes, and the dramatic vocals of Courtney Swain. Courtney has an expressive voice, often ranging from cooing to yowling in the same song, and boy does that come out here. Whimsical verses with abstract lyrics stack up against walls of guitars with maybe a Muse-like tone in the choruses. Those who are paying attention may also notice snippets of piano and field recordings scattered throughout the chaotic mix, which are also nice touches. The intensity waxes and wanes quite a bit throughout, but ultimately builds to a stratospheric chorus to close out the song, with Courtney's fast vibrato melismas maybe reminding me a little bit of Sufi devotional music. Bottom line, cool song. We've gotten into some heavy and dramatic music over the course of this video, so I thought it might be fitting to close out with something lighter. My final pick of the day is Shut Up, a neatly packaged little slice of pop-punk from Seattle's Midnight Movie. It's the final track from their very recent EP, Home by 9, which is unfortunately the exact practice that people should be exercising in Seattle right now. Shut Up is a fast-paced song, as most pop-punk songs are, but has some tempo changes towards the end that I wasn't expecting. It's a good showcase for the two vocalists in the band, who often sing in sugary sweet thirds with each other to great effect. The lyrics describe the narrator's insecurities about overanalyzing the social interactions that he goes through every day, constantly obsessing over whether he spoke too much as he mulls over the recent past in his head. As someone who once tried to record a verse to one of my songs 149 times in a single sitting so that people wouldn't think I was bad at singing, I suppose that I can relate. This is a tune that brings me back to all the house shows that I went to in high school and college. For a while to come, our memories of being packed in a room with 50 other sweaty people collectively saluting their youth is all we're going to have. I know I'll cherish them. And that brings us to the end of my list for this week's episode of The Rec Room. As always, thank you so much for checking out my show. If I stay healthy, you can expect the next episode to not be quite as late as this one. Also, I'm giving myself a week from this date to make a new song for you, so I hope you enjoyed that as well. It's just going to be on the same channel. If you like what I'm doing here and want more, you can help me feel all warm and fuzzy inside by clicking on the big red subscribe button below me here. Also, in the description below, I've linked a public Spotify playlist I'm building of every song that I've ever featured on this show available for streaming, so if you're wondering what any of these pieces sound like, wonder no more. If you want to give me feedback on this series or want me to talk about a particular track that you like, for which I'm always game, go ahead and leave a comment on this video or DM me on Facebook or Instagram and I'll take a listen. If you're interested in checking out any music that I made myself, go on over to ochrence.com or search my name on Spotify or Apple Music or whatever you use. Once again, this has been The Rec Room with your host, Ochrence. Stay safe and have a good one.